Okay, so I'm going to go over everything from what the game first started as all the way to what it is now. I'm going to go over everything in this update. So, March 18th was when I first started this project. Before that, I was trying to decide what type of game I wanted to make. I was debating between a bunch of different genres. I was originally making a karting game because I had a cool idea to make it unique. But the issue was I didn't know how to make a 2D game of it. I tried 3D. I'm not a 3D artist. I'll stick with 2D. So then I decided my first game might as well start with something simple and make a platformer game because that seems to be one of the easiest games to make. So I first designed Watcher. He was originally a mod for Don't Starve. Way back, I think 2013, I think was when I first made him. But for the game, I made the first animation for him, tested that all out. Everything worked good. Then day two, this is what it originally looked like. I had the level differently. I had a bit of a plan. I was trying to decide whether I wanted to make a endless runner or a platformer. I then decided to make it start off the game with a boss fight, which is basically going to be running away from the boss, and then you were going to have a platformer type puzzle solving and stuff, and you were going to have an attacks, and I had a whole list of different attacks that you were going to have. I was having troubles implementing them, and I thought, as cool as they didn't fit the game. I kind of want to stick more to the running aspect of the game and make it more of a horror runner. So then I rechanged it. I changed the level, and as you can see, the keeper doesn't look the best, and the game itself doesn't look best. This was just the prototype stage, and then I finally made a level, made things look a lot better, and made it so all the characters and everything looked better. Add some details. Then I decided to design another boss. That's when the Hoarder came in, and I asked the community to name a lot of the uh, enemies and stuff. And I got some of my friends to name the game. The game is named after, or my friend Wolf Cyborg, he actually thought of the name of the Nightmares of an Eyeball Man. And so then I continued to work, and then I decided to add a common enemy, so that ended up being the Gouda Grunts that you see. That's their original design. It was just a black and white, and then I thought, I could use some color into it. And then later on, I added a second character, which was the Beholder. I wanted to make the game a two-player game, but I was having a lot of troubles at that point. So I implemented her in, and as you can see, there was a few issues. I only have footage of one, but at that point I thought Watcher is really plain and boring, so then I decided to revamp him and make it so he fits Beholder, because Beholder has color, Watcher didn't, Player 1, Player 2, they all kind of needed it. Well, as soon as I added Player 3, then I thought, okay, yeah, they definitely need color now. So that's when I changed him to have a little tint of red to him. And around this point, I was having issues with the camera. As soon as I added Player 2, I originally, when I first made the game, I had the player as a prefab. So he was by himself, and the camera would follow that prefab. But then as soon as I started implementing with the player 2, there was a lot of issues that happened with the character selection. Since it was spawning in the characters, the camera was set, and everything else, the heart, HUD, and all that was all set for if the character was already in the game. And I'm not a coder, so I don't really know. I had to watch tons of YouTube videos to figure out pretty much the entirety of the game, and I still don't know a whole lot. So I had to kind of think, okay, I need Watcher already in the game for it to work, for the camera to follow. I can't have him spawn in. What I did to fix that was I put the prefab in, I made him transparent, gave him 0 gravity, I put him up in the sky just because, and then it was basically going to be what the controls and everything would follow. So any damage you took, it technically is hitting the camera and not the player, just because I don't know how to fix it. This is a lot more longer and complicated than it should have been. But there he is. If I could see on the side here, yeah, player cam. That is what I decided. That was later named Gilbert by a community. I'm not gonna name who's did this and that because I'd have to look it up every time. That's in the credits to know who named what and what. So I decided to design a character for the camera and make him invisible, and then I later did a poll on TikTok to see if people actually want him visible. For the most part, people wanted to, but there's still a select few. I wanted to make it fair for everyone, so everyone gets a bit of things, but it was the issue of I needed him in the game. So there's actually 2 cameramen to begin with if you buy through Frag's skin. Then you have 2. So you have the one that is invisible, so you can never buy a follower if you don't want to. They are optional to buy. With Frags you collect, and then you can change the skin, or you can have all of them following behind you if you want. I do have a few issues with the Frags though that I do not know how to fix. If anything collides with the frag, you will collect it. I'm still figuring out how to fix that. Like I said, I'm new to coding, so I don't know a whole lot. But after that point, I decided to make the level a lot nicer, make it bigger. So I worked on the level a lot, made it a lot nicer, added a lot more details to it. And then from there, I added a pause menu. It took me a while to do that. Yeah, so then that was around the time where I added the Endurer, and it was going to be like a 3-player if you could. Like, I was going to make it a 4-player that you could all play in the same or online, but again, the lack of knowledge. I'll eventually will make it so you can have 2 players playing on the same computer or whatever, and I would like to make it an online game eventually, but it's a matter of finding the knowledge or finding someone to hire or whatever to help me with the rest of the stuff that I want to implement. For now, I pretty much added everything I could. So I just polished up level 1, made it a lot bigger. Then I worked on the second level. I had help on that as well. Then after that, it was at the point where I started implementing the Observer. He was a secret unlockable character. I didn't know how. I was having troubles figuring that out until I finally figured out how to make level unlocks. So what I had to do to make player unlocks, there's definitely a better way of doing this. I do not recommend the way I did this. I pretty much made all the skins all separate players. So every single skin is another player that you can play as. It's all because of how the player spawner works. I don't really know how to make a skin selection, so I just kind of guessed and just made it so they're all players, because again, that's what I know. Not the best way, but so then I made the level unlocks, I made the skin unlocks and all that. I decided that Observer will no longer be the secret unlockable character. That is going to be a new character that I haven't even talked about or mentioned. I've mentioned it once, and I'm going to leave that as a secret. This character probably will not be released when I release the game, or the demo version of the game. But that was pretty much it for that. And the HUD hearts, they were originally going to have each character had their specific color of heart. I couldn't do that when I changed and added the player spawner because it was designated to the player camera. So the camera would also have to change with each character, and it just ended up being a lot of work to my knowledge of what I could have done. So then I just made it so depending on your damage, the hearts will change color then. There's a lot I would like to add to that as well. I will make that in another video of things I want to add to the game. At this point, I then added music, so the game didn't seem so boring when I tested it here and there, so it seemed a little more alive. But that was all for that. I then later worked on the main menu screen. I had a settings, I was gonna make it so you can change the volume, but I never got around to that. I'll still probably be a while before I do that. You used to, how things work before the whole unlock system, you pretty much just chose whatever character you wanted to be. I don't have any footage of how it used to work, and there was only the one level, and you basically just played it forever or however. So then I still don't exactly have everything set up properly the way I wanted to for the level unlock system. You have to unlock a skin and a player at the same time as the level that you unlock, so when you make it to the end you unlock the 3 things. I do not know how to make it so you only unlock one thing at a time. I would like to make it so I can reach a certain point and then you unlock something, like make it halfway, you unlock a skin or something like that. I'm sure I'll figure it out eventually. But after this, I then decided I wanted to make it so you could get more followers, so I figured out how to make the shop, and then that's when the frags were introduced. Before, you didn't have to use frags to get Gilbert, there was just an option whether you wanted him or not. So I made the shop. It was a really basic shop. It didn't look like what it looked like now. It was just a plain blue background, nothing all too fancy. It was very boring. A lot of the things I have in this game, I'm just adding them so they're done, and so they have been added. I'm gonna make them look nicer over time. Then after the market, that was when the observer was no longer a secret character. That's when it was finally implemented for that. And after that, I worked on the 4th level, and that's when the Eternal came, which was also named after from the community. The Eternal, I was basically how I made the Eternal. I was trying to think of what a cool next boss could be. I wasn't all too sure. I wanted to make something a little bit different. So actually what I did was I made a bunch of random blobs on the software I used, painted it, then I used a smudge tool in random directions, and then I saw something out of it, and the shape, it kind of reminded me of these old 90s toys. They were little not gel, but kind of like plastic, hard plastic toys that you buy, and one of them kind of looked like the Eternal there, and I can't remember exactly the type of style that my style was based off of, with the whole X's and the I's and all that. There was this other style that I can't quite remember. I've been searching for it, but anyways, I made him, then I made him into a ghost. I made him have the acidy rain and all that because I thought that was cool. I made the kind of mushroomy world, but that all turned out well. Then after that point, that's when the level unlock was implemented. But from there, I started adding more skins to the game. There was no skin unlocks at that time, they were automatically unlocked with the character. So then I implemented so the skins could be unlocked, and again I had to make them as individual assets for it. And then I found music for all the levels and all the different bosses and all that. And then I later, after that, had to go back. I had to shorten and extend a lot of levels so they were all kind of around the same size. Then I added a dynamic lighting effect to them. It was actually just a really cheap way. I don't know how to make any advanced lighting yet, which in time I will figure that out. I'm pretty much just drew, I took a sheet on my software I used to paint with. I painted light rays and all that, made it transparent or semi-transparent, and then I put it over the camera so it's nothing special. And then in the dark places I just made another semi-transparent shadowy fog thing, put over the camera, and then that's basically how I did that. Really fast and easy. A lack of knowledge to do anything better for that. I was gonna add a score, but it was taking a lot of work to implement, and I was having trouble figuring out. I might do that later, and I'll probably do a high score and stuff later. Because my biggest thing was I was trying to figure out how to get people to continuously play. Because then they'd always want to try and beat the high score, and eventually I'll make achievements and stuff. And then I was thinking whether I want to make an endless mode, which I'm actually still deciding whether I want to make an endless mode or not. I'm figuring that out, because I would have to change the game completely for that. So I'll talk more about that in another video. And at this point, I was pretty much wrapping up everything in the game. I then made it visually, when you made it to the end of the level, it would visually tell you that you've unlocked something. Unfortunately, that's only a trigger effect, so every time you beat the level, it will say that. I will obviously make it so it'll only show when you actually do unlock something. A lot of the stuff I'm doing, it's hard to find tutorials of how to do it to match the code I'm using and to match everything that I'm using with. Then at this point, there wasn't a whole lot. It was basically just waiting for my beta testers to give me feedback. And so now it's just a matter of making the game look a little nicer and just doing things that just matter a little bit. So I then later made it so it would tell you what chapter and level you're playing, what boss you're currently running away from. And to clear up one thing, this level is basically going to be a running game only. I'm not going to make any platform or puzzling parts. It's just going to keep running from bosses, and I'll add different things. I want to give each of the characters abilities and stuff and make them more in-depth instead of just simple and basic. But again, I'll talk more in detail of that later. I also changed the tutorial level and credits. The tutorial and credits I actually did at the beginning. I forgot to mention that. I did that fairly early. I changed that up because I was having a lot of troubles with the Gouda grunts. Their hitboxes, I still kind of have troubles with them. They used to be able, as soon as you hit them, they would get sent flying. Or sometimes you wouldn't take damage when you touch them. That still happens. I don't know why it happens. It shouldn't. Because I have a trigger collider box that does the damage. And then I have a collider box on top of the Gouda grunts. So if you jump them on the head on that one, then it kills them. And you don't take damage. But sometimes when you run behind them, sometimes you take damage, sometimes you don't. So I'm still figuring out how to fix that. They're fairly accurate now. Their collider boxes, I figured out at this point how to make the collider boxes move with the animation, so that made things a lot better. You used to only take damage from the front, or that's how it was supposed to be, and you used to be able to just run up behind them and stomp them and kill them and take no damage. But things weren't accurate that way. So then I had to change it to fix a lot of issues and fix a lot of bugs. They made it so you get damage from both sides. And for the longest time, I had this glitch where you would get stuck on a wall and just stay there. I did have some of my beta testers tell me about that. I couldn't figure it out for the longest time. I made a video on TikTok of how I fixed that, but then I got that all fixed. And for the most part, that was pretty much everything that I've added from this point on. It was just a matter of just tidying the game up, and that's pretty much it.